Vein Laila, Nights Fochmo, Havakayam Timin Lamba Ed Baruchata Adonai, Hama Ariv Aravim, Avat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha, Hafta Torah Mitzvot Chukim, Mushatim Lamadita, Kivchim Lemuneh V'mo Yisrael. V'havadcha tesir mimenu li'olam baruchata Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Page 265. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Baruchato L'olam va'ed, v'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha, Uv'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shiftecha b'veitecha, uv'lechtecha havaderech, uv'shachbecha uv'kumecha, u'kshartam leot al yadecha, V'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvihisharecha. 266 privately. Vayam shmot yishmu evzechem do b'chol chol nam shechem and adam evzechem. Adonai Elohechem emet, emet, $267. Umalchuto b'ratzon kiblu alehem Moshe u'Miriam. Uvenes lechanu shira b'simcha rabba ve'amru chulam mi chamocha belim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh nora tehilot osefele malchutecha uvanecha b'kayam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch leolam v'ahed v'nemar kifet Adonai et Yaakov v'glam yichazak mimenu baruch ata Adonai Goal Yisrael. Again, for those who are tuning in, many of our CSP and many congregants from CBI tuning in, this is the short Ma'ariv service to mark the end of Shabbat. It'll be about 10 more minutes, and then our presenter, Peter Pitzele. Page 267, together in English. Allow us, Adonai our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us unto life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel. And save us for the sake of your name. Shield us, remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai, eternal guardian of your people Israel. Page 269. Baruch Adonai l'olam, Baruch Adonai b'layla. Ki amalchut shochi olam timloch bechavod, ken lanu melech ela ata. Baruch ata Adonai, hamelech b'chvadot tamid yimloch aleinu olam ve'ed ve'al kol masahav. Yidkadav yigadash shemei rabah. בעלמא דברי קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ומכון חייך בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן יהי שם רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה יברך וישתבח ויתפאר ומעמיד נעשה ותדע ותעלה ותדלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא ואמרו amen. Our private Amidah with an insert for the end of Shabbat that you will find. Take a look for it, beginning privately, pages 270 to 278. Oh, say shalom bimromav, hu say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru amen. Yitgadav yigadav shemei rabba. בעלמא דברי קירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון ומכון וחייך לכל בית ישראל בגלה זמן קריב אמרו אמן יש רבה מברך לעולם עולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתמם ויתנשא ותדע ותעלה ותדלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילם וכל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה Damiran Belma Vimru Amen. The Gabetzel Honavad Hon. The Chol Yisrael Kadama Vahon Vishmaya Vimru Amen. Yehesh Lama Rabba Min Shemaya V'chaim Alein V'kol Yisrael Vimru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mamav Yoseh Shalom Alein V'kol Yisrael Vimru Amen. Aleinu L'shabeach Ladon HaKol Latid Gedula Yotzer Breshit Shelo Asanu Kigoye Haratzot Velo Samanu Kamishbachot Hadama Shelo Sam Chelkenu Kahem V'Gohar Aleinu B'chol Hamonam V'anachnu Korim Umishtachavim Umodim Lifnei Melech Malchei Hamlachim Hakadosh Baruch Hu Shunatei Shamayim Yosed Haaretz Kakatu b'Toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech kol ha'aretz bayomahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad. You may be seated. Page 59, Psalm 27. LeDavid Adonai ori v'yishin. Show me your way, Adonai, and lead me on a straight path, despite those who arrayed against me. Do not hand me over to those who beseech me. For false witnesses who breathe hatred have risen against me. If only I could trust that I would see God's goodness in the land of the living. Place your hope in Adonai, be strong and take courage. And place your hope in Adonai. Those observing a yurtzeit are who are in mourning. Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish 282. Yitkadal v'yitkadash amei rabbah, bi'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kari v'imru amen, yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olamo me'olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imru amen, yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen, Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. Linda, need your help. We conclude our service, which will be followed by the program with Dr. Peter Pitzele, with Havdalah. So page 283, we rise. Can you light it? As we say together our prayers that transition us from Shabbat to the week ahead. La 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 da 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 ya da 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 ya da ya da 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 ya da da la 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 da ya la 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 da 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 la 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 B'kuchata Adonai. I gotta hold it. Just hold it. haolam. Borei peri hagafen, borei peri hagafen. Amen. La 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 ya la 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 ya ra. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei minei v'samim, borei minei v'samim. Amen. La 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 ya ya la 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 ya la 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 ra 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 ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei morei ha'esh, borei morei ha'esh. Amen. La 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 da 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 la 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 da da. La ya la 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 da 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 ya da da. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, ben or lechoshech, ben Yisrael le'amim, ben yom hashvi'i le'sheshet yemei hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Amen. La 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 da 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 ya ya la la da 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 ya da ya la 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 ya da ya la la. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimhera v'yameinu, Ya'avo aleinu. Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben David. Shavua Tov. Okay, blow it out. Okay. Shavua Tov, a new week with the joy of Dr. Peter Pitzele in our midst. Dr. Peter Pitzele is, as we've had tastes over the last couple days, a major storyteller and one who not only tells his own story, and I do invite you, if you haven't watched it, on Friday at 12:30, there was a presentation, a conversation between myself and Dr. Peter Pitzele. So I encourage you to go to the occsp.net website and watch that hour. That'll give added context about the gift of storytelling, in that case, the story of Peter's life. Peter also is a master storyteller who evokes our stories, but more. My friend Peter, Shimon, is somebody attuned to his own pre-storytelling intuitive presence that allows him to be among, if not the most creative person I know, whether as a poet, a writer, and also as an artist. Something that he took up only in more recent years, giving all of us hope to have different phases of discovery of our own creative possibilities. And in that regard, with Peter coming to our congregation, he has come with one of his art pieces. And to give context, our president, Phyllis Abrams, it's a gift to our community, the president of our community.
I I could live up to that. Shavua Tov, everybody. Welcome again. I had an opportunity to meet Peter Pitzele several weeks ago when we were planning for this event, and I met him on Friday in person, which was delightful, and all he said to me was, even without your mask on, Phyllis, I'd recognize you with all that hair. So it was a delight to meet him. But one of the things that I've been telling people in all the emails is, how do you say goodbye to somebody after 33 years? What do you do? How do you say goodbye? Well, in addition to being the bibliodrama expert that he is, he's also an artist, which I've learned over the last few weeks. So Peter has commissioned a piece for Congregation B'nai Israel as a memento of your dedication, Rabbi, to us, our feelings towards you, and something that whenever we're in this building, even though you're not here on a weekly basis, we're still going to have a memento of your time here, which we're truly grateful for. So, Peter?
So,
There
we go. I'm wondering, before we unveil this, Phyllis said it was commissioned. Obviously, I made it. But I wonder if you're comfortable finding a position closer to me than where you are. I know that distancing is important, and I don't want to in any way abrogate that. But it's the lights and the distance make it hard for me to feel that we're a little community. So I would appreciate it if you can use these every other rows. I promise it won't put you on the hot seat. And you can leave if you're feeling weary, and I won't be insulted. Thank you very much. It makes a big difference in terms of how I can relate to you. That's much better. Thank you. So I'm just going to say a little bit. I'm going to unveil this piece. Hold on just a second. But just so that to prepare you, this is not your usual synagogue piece of art. This is something that I made when I was working in doing midrash with torn paper and collage. And I'm a collage artist. And this is a piece I did, and it's one of the few pieces of my own that I had framed because it meant a lot to me, and I'll say a word or two about what it means to it. But here it is for you, Ellie. Yeah. So the Torah gives us almost no examples of the artist. You know, we have the storytellers in the Torah, we have the prophets, we have all kinds of figures, but we don't have an artist. And when I was being an artist, when I wanted to express my relationship to the Torah in visual terms, using my limited resources, which were really not to draw pictures, but to form something with collage. The character that meant the most to me at that moment was Pitzele. And I see nods, but for those of you who might not remember, Pitzele was... Pitzele, come up here. No. Pitzele was basically commissioned, called upon by the Lord and imbued with the spirit of something between a general contractor, an architect, a designer, and a gatherer of the spirit of the Hebrew people, the Israelites in the desert, to create the Mishkan. And when you get a chance to look at this more closely, you'll see that there are sort of architectural lines that suggest the blueprint, so to speak. But then there is this other Perhaps you can see a face. I intended there to be a kind of visage here and the sense of light streaming in. And anyway, this is a very alive piece that represents the aliveness of that moment in Torah where this heavenly image of a tent of meeting came down and formed itself into the Mishkan. And Ellie is such a supporter of art, and now I know that Linda is too. And so when Phyllis spoke to me months ago about perhaps doing a piece for this occasion, at a certain point, what I really wanted to do was give Ellie and this community the piece that was in sense dearest to my heart. So hopefully it will find its place here and catch the light, and when the light is caught, think of Ellie. I'm just gonna leave it right here, Phyllis, for now. Okay. Is that okay? Yeah. Right in front of Pitzele. Do you like it, Pitzele? Good. Good. Now, Phyllis, thank you so much.
It's our pleasure to thank you, and to thank you for giving us something that is so meaningful to you, to all of us, and that will grace one of the walls in this beautiful building as a memento for years to remember this and many, many years. Thank you again.
You bet, you bet. So, I'm going to ask you. Okay, Ellie, don't go away yet. You have, even though I'm here on assignment, you have put me on the spot in all kinds of ways that I really appreciate. And I would like you to say a few words about what Selichot is before I do my presentation. Thank you.
So, Selichot literally means forgiveness. We think of those prayers, particularly as we build to Yom Kippur, where we're hitting our chest, or if you will, massaging our heart, to acknowledge that we could be more. To prepare for the new year, we as a people distinctly engage in deeper and deeper layers of self-reflection. And Selichot, which will be at 10 o'clock as a service, will be the melodies of the high holidays, now 10 days away, and will give us the next 10 days to turn to each other to ask for forgiveness for any wrongdoings or others who aren't in our midst in this moment. For in our tradition, God as the parent says, before you come to me and ask for my forgiveness, first ask each other. Because when you hurt each other, it hurts me. So you do want to ask me for forgiveness, but you must make amends. And so this time of Selichot is a time to prepare us to examine who we would want to say, Salach li, forgive me, enable me to feel more whole with you, and to say it to God, and to find our own healing within. In our community, it's our tradition that on this evening that prepares us for this self-reflection, we have a speaker. Last year, we were privileged to have Father Greg, who works with the gang members of South Central LA. And tonight, we have Peter Pitzele, Dr. Peter Pitzele, who is a facilitator of us connecting to our sacred stories and to using the gaps in our sacred stories to hear deeply within us what emerges spontaneously. Our presenter, Peter Pitzele, Shimon.
Thank you. So I have had, this is the third of my sort of bibliodramatic presentations. And some of you are with me. You've been to chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3, but I'm going to remind you of what I've done and bring you into where we are. On Friday night, in the brief devar that I gave, I indicated where I thought we were in the journey of the Torah. And I specified that we have reached, as Deuteronomy ends and the high holidays begin, as this transition, we have come to the end of the story of Moses. And we have reached we're within sight of the river that we will cross into the promised land. And we know that Moses is leaving us. And on Friday night, I invited us to find our way here to this place, this before and after place, this in-between place, between there, which was Egypt, and there, which is the land promised to us. We're not in either place. We're out of the wilderness, but we're still in the soup at the very end. And this morning, we focused on Moses. We had a Moses in our midst who was our bar mitzvah boy. And I proposed to us that we were, as we listened to Devarim, as we listened to the Torah being read, we were hearing the last words of Moses, his final soliloquy, his address, his legacy. And I invited Cantor Katz and Ellie to imagine that they were the inner voice of Moses speaking. And I asked, what is this moment like for Moses as he stands before his people, knowing that he was, in effect, saying goodbye, but also giving them their marching orders. And what emerged was really the mixed feelings that Moses has as he both recognizes the abundance of this journey and how far he and they and we have come, and also the sadness of his not being able to see it through to the very end, accepting his own mortality and God's will, surrendering to it. So this, as one reads Devarim week by week, it's haunted by the sense that those people who are listening to it, and we who are listening to it, must imagine the context for it. And of course, why am I harping on this? It's because this is the farewell phase of our dear rabbi. And the text somehow gives us a platform, a container for a story about transitions. And, I'm not here to move anyone farther than they want to go with acknowledging what is happening in this high holiday season, what is happening to your community. At the same time, I have been invited here because Rabbi Spitz and I and Phyllis and Ari, when we talked about programming and my coming out, recognized that it was appropriate, not to avoid the elephant in the room, so to speak, and to simply let our hearts be open to it. And so when Ari proposed that I do Selichot, I felt that the sobriety of this occasion was really a very fitting time for me to again, move this story along. And I want to focus tonight not on the community of Israel as it's sort of there on the riverbank, and I don't want to focus on Moshe, who we have this sense of what that means to him, but there are two characters who are present while Moses is making his address, who are the significant figures for this evening. One of them, of course, is Joshua. And we have heard that Joshua will take over, so to speak. And we have witnessed a scene, we will witness it, but there's a scene where Moses actually, sort of officially recognizes, this is my successor. And so as the ending unfolds, there is Joshua in attendance. And what I introduced this morning in our exploration of Moses was the notion of a second chair, and I want to use that now, if I may. So here is the sort of the two-dimensional figure of Joshua. Warrior who fought the Amalekites, he's a tough guy. It's not going to be easy crossing. We know we don't need a prophet right now. We need a general. Who knows what we're going to meet over there? There are giants in the land, although he says it's going to be great, but never know, and Joshua's the guy. And, of course, Joshua has been part of the story. He's a survivor. He lived. He's one of the two who's been there since the beginning. So the second chair is our imagination of what might be going on as Joshua listens to the speech, but also takes in almost for the first time that it's really going to happen. And the way bibliodrama works is that I ask you, I say, you are Joshua. You are listening to these words. And what is going on as you listen? And I invite you to notice that something comes to mind. I'm not going to necessarily call on you, but doesn't something come to mind? Raise your hand if something comes to mind. It's almost inevitable, I find, in bibliodrama. You may think it's crazy, or you may not think it's worth saying. You may think it's obvious. But it's not like, I can't imagine. Your natural empathy and imagination flows to this place. And I'm not going to ask, but I'd like to hear some words that came, just a word. You give me the word, I'll try to play the accordion and open it up. What's one word?
Unworthy.
Unworthy. So, I'm Joshua. And in this moment, I feel I'm naked to myself. And who am I to fill those shoes? Thank you. Another word.
What did I get into?
I heard the story from Moses himself that when God asked him to come and be a leader, he said, no, not me, anybody else but me, not me. I mean, 5 different times Moses told me he tried to tell God he had the wrong guy. And that's the way I feel. You know, I mean, really? Thank you. Please. I am afraid. And I think there are probably many aspects to my fear, but what's one that comes to your mind? Fear of? The unknown. Okay. Thank you. Yes, I am Joshua. And you know, I know Moses didn't know where we were going, but he somehow led us here because God spoke to him and guided him. But the unknown is right across the river. Even though I went there and spied, 10 of the 12 of us said it was a terrible place, don't go there. And I put the best face on it I could as Joshua. No, it's a beautiful place, milk and honey. We're going to be great there. Little did I know that I was going to be the one to take us there. And you know something? We're not necessarily welcome there. And who knows what we're going to find there? I'm afraid. Another, yes.
Will the people believe him?
And you know, everything depends on whether I have the confidence of the people and can lead them. Will they put their trust in me? How will I earn their trust? Another, yes.
I have faith.
I have faith. Well, thank you for that, because as Joshua, Moses has told me, it's not just my muscle. There's something about me. I may not even know it fully, but he believes in me. And his faith in me has given me faith. It's about to be tested, but I'm not empty of faith. Thank you. Yes?
I can't believe this is actually happening.
Yes, right. You know, pinch me. I mean, I've dreamt about this, thought about this, dreaded this, looked forward to this, had all kinds of feelings about this. Now that it's here, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's true in that way that's like, oh my God. Another.
What do I do next?
So what's the first step? You know, I mean, what do I do next? Well, he hasn't died yet. That's going to be a big deal. The next thing I'm going to do has something to do with being part of that grieving period. Let me remind you. Where did I put down? There it is. Let me remind you of the curtain that falls at the end of our Torah. Moses went up from the steppes of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the summit of Pisgah, opposite Jericho. And the Lord showed him the whole land, from Gilead as far as Dan, all Naphtali and the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, the whole land of Judah as far as the western sea, the Negev and the plain, the valley of Jericho, the city of palm trees, as far as Zoar. An amazing vision. And the Lord said to him, "This is the land which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I will assign it to your offspring. I have let you see it with your own eyes, but you shall not cross there." So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab at the command of the Lord. He buried him in the valley in the land of Moab near Beth Peor, and no one knows his burial place to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were undimmed and his vigor unabated. And the Israelites bewailed Moses in the steppes of Moab for 30 days. the period of wailing and mourning for Moses came to an end. Now Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands upon him, and the Israelites heeded him, doing as the Lord had commanded to Moses. So Joshua, you weather this, and somehow at the end there's a transmission of spirit, a full transmission of spirit, so that you are ready for the next step. There is a second person who is present during the final words of Moses. And this is a figure that is wonderfully deserving of midrash, because this figure has almost no story. I'm referring to Caleb. Yes, Caleb, C-A-L-E-B. And you know, the word has in it lev, heart, Caleb, but it's also the word for dog. It is funny. It's as if the Torah is making a kind of joke. We have Joshua, whose credentials are unquestioned. He's a fighter. He's tough. Caleb, what's he doing here? How is it that he's here? Well, we know that he distinguishes himself as the second of the spies to say this is a good land, he and Joshua. And Moses says to him, singles him out by name and says, because you, Caleb, because you have given this good report, this heartening report, you, Caleb, will enter the land. Second chair. One other footnote about Caleb, because the rabbis, the sages, the readers of Torah did think about this guy. Like, who is he? And the midrash that sort of stands out pretty well in my mind is that he's the husband of Miriam. Interesting. And that they had a son named Hur. Now, who is Hur, you might ask? Remember the time when Moses was seated on a stone holding up a rod with the Amalekites, with Joshua down there fighting, and Moses is up on the hill going, dee, 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 aye, sitting down, and he sits down. I'll find a chair for Moses so I don't sit on Hur's lap. So here's our Moses, and he's going like this, but the battle goes on all day. So they because there are two men up there with him, Aaron, his brother, and Hur, holding up his arms. Well, Aaron, we know who Aaron is, his brother. Well, who's Hur? And the rabbis love this kind of stuff. Let's make up a great story about who Hur is and put him in and figure it out. And, well, they figure it out. Caleb marries Miriam, and Hur is their son. So Miriam isn't up there. No, we can't have that. We're not that ready for that yet. But we can put Hur up there, and thereby Moses is being held up by Aaron and Miriam. That's all we know about Caleb. So, you, Caleb, we need to make up a story about you. And I'll tell you why we need your story. We need your story because we know that there is a necessary role for might, strength, Joshua at the Battle of Jericho. Somebody had to do it. But what is it that Caleb brings with him in the crossing? And why do I ask this question on Selichot? Well, I ask this question on Selichot because this community is making a crossing. You are moving into an interim. Literally, you will have an interim. And then you will have I won't use the words. You know what you're supposed to have. I won't go there. However, there is a spirit that this community will have to draw on in order to transition and stay together. You're going to have to do some forgiving of one another. You're going to have to realize that you community, are Caleb's. You bring the history. You have the history. Some of you have it immensely. You have it generationally. This morning, when the rabbi was speaking to Sarah, was it Sarah, your first president, or the Sue-Ann? It was a beautiful thing. Well, there it was. There it was all the way back. Ellie arrives with, I think Linda hadn't arrived yet because Linda's being very pregnant. But Ellie arrives on the occasion of Sue-Ann's mother's Shiva. Whew. Enter Ellie Spitz, Rabbi Ellie Spitz. So there it is. There's the legacy. There's the history. So you are Caleb. And Caleb, what is it that you have? And what is it that you bring to this community? Again, second chair. One word. Dive in. Caleb, what do you have to offer? Loyalty.
In the sense of faithfulness, because when you're faithful to the new leader, you also show a spirit of faithfulness to God.
So I will be seen. People will look at me and they'll say, is Caleb with it or against it? Is he like, well, I don't know about this? Or is he supportive? And Caleb, have an enormous responsibility, really, of dealing with my losses, but also addressing the reality that we are moving on and that this man deserves support. I'm not going to, well, Joshua, he's just a strong man. He's not really very bright. None of that. No, my loyalty. I've been loyal to to Moses. What does this mean that my son, my blood, held up this man's arms? That's what I taught my son. Loyalty. What else?
Energy.
Pardon? Energy. Now, I'm no spring chicken. And yet, there is an energy, but I need to know what that energy is. What is the energy that, Caleb, you have? What is that energy?
Optimism?
No, what is that energy? Energy for what? What kind of energy is it? Is it like you can go to the gym every day and do 100 laps? No. What is it? Okay, so there's a certain sense in which I have a kind of youth in me. I may look old, but in fact, it was a kind of quality of hope, a spirit of aliveness in me that's still shining in my eyes. Yes. And you know, I proved it when I was a spy, optimistic. I see what's possible. You know, it's not like I'm a Pollyanna. It's not like I'm always seeing the bright side of things. No, I know, I can recognize when things aren't right. But fundamentally, I bring to these people who are like wandering around. I mean, really, people are staggering in their confusion and their loss. I mean, the grief hasn't just passed because the 30 days are up or something. But I say, no. But trust me, I've seen so much. I've seen moments when we all thought, oh, Moses, we should go back to Egypt. This isn't working out. You know, it's better back there than here. I lived through all that. And I was the one who said, no, that's silly. Trust. Hope. Go. Thank you. What else? Please.
Insight and wisdom.
Wisdom. Now there's a commodity. There's a commodity. And you know, tomorrow I'm going to be speaking, having a session with the board and some of the elders. I love the fact that there's beginning to be a convening of elders. I've been supporting this initiative wherever I could. You know, people retire from president and services, and they've been around. There's no way for those people to offer wisdom. And what is wisdom if not what you've distilled over time from a variety of experiences that you still can articulate and you can offer? It's not like, well, let me give you advice, son. No, it's an ability to listen and then help a direction to be found. Please.
Yichus.
And that means?
Yichus,
like what you know, like your cantor has. What is that again?
Like he's got a name to him. He came from Moses' family. He's got legacy. Legacy, yeah. It's like genealogy. Yeah, he's got the genes. He's like a well-known guy.
I'm a made guy. I love it. So I have a history. I have a legacy. I have my own story, and I've been around enough that it's clear that I have, even though I'm not arrogant, I have stature. Fair enough? Yeah, I have stature, yes.
He's a parent, a new generation.
And I am a parent, I've been a parent, I'm probably a grandfather. I've seen the life cycle events. You have no idea how many life cycle events I, as Caleb, have seen. I know the life cycle events, the ups and the downs events. What else?
Love for his community.
Say a little bit again. Love. Well, let's just talk about my name. You know, I blush a little bit about my name because, of course, they all, you know, the dog is, faithful and, loyal, all those things. Yes, this is me. But it's really, no man can talk about his own heart. But thank you for calling attention to it. Because, this really is the seat of, if I am wise, it's because of my heart. And that means both love and compassion and empathy and the ability to be quiet, to listen, to sort of be there, to believe, to have faith, have trust, have hope, to carry myself in a way that others, I'm not saying I'm a role model. I'm just saying that I'm there. And that can provide a certain sense of security. Anything else? Please.
He accepts his mission.
Yes, acceptance. As Caleb, I never dreamed that this would be thrust upon me, this role. And yet, I haven't quarreled with it. I'm not asked to be a leader like Joshua, but I am asked to have a role. And I accept that I will. I don't know what it's going to be because the heart is not a predictor of the future. I don't have a crystal ball. But I know that I have a purpose, and it will come. And I hope to be able to make a difference. Joshua and Caleb. And don't they seem somehow like a very interesting pair? You know, the strength and the heart, the wisdom and the willingness, the will. You know, it somehow Moses was right that in order for the community to move forward into the interim, there needs to be the Joshua energy, which is, you know, let's keep things going. You know, let's keep the spirit, traditions, the acts, the legacies, the convenings, the patterns of living that require energy and exertion, committee work, taking on difficult problems like COVID, setting up fences, dealing with health issues, making rules, gavura, right? Mwah! But without chesed, then it's just rigidity. And so we don't just need will, we need the spirit, the humor of the waggy, shaggy, loyal Caleb. And each of you, I know this, each of us have these two energies. You know, so the Kabbalah tells us, you know, we have Gevurah, we have Chesed. These are part of our innate. Well, we could give Eli no greater gift than to assure him of our resilience. That we will grieve on the steps of Moab. Of that there is no doubt. We should grieve. We will remember. And we must, together with one another, reach for an energy that goes by the name of resilience, that he would be proud of, that he would want for us. Moses wants us to succeed. And Moses was given this vision where he saw that we would. But now for now, you know, it's more or less up to us to carry on. The interim rabbi, I'm sure he's going to be a fine fellow, but he's not going to know anything, really, about who we are. And when the next he's not going to know anything about who we are. And we will be loyal, and we will be optimistic, and we will, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we will also be in the position of being Caleb's and Joshua's, offering our structures, our customs, our ways, which we need to succeed, even as they will evolve. That's resilience. And this time between Selichot and Sukkot, this is the time that the wisdom of our tradition provides us to go deep, to make amends, so that when we make this transition, we're not in oppositions with one another. We can't afford it. Not now. Be brave. I've had quite an exposure to the 12-step programs, and maybe some of you know people who are in them or know of them, but the making of amends is a very, very interesting step in the 12-step. And I'll say a word about it, because the caution in the 12-step program is, don't force yourself on someone to make yourself feel better for saying I'm sorry if that other person isn't ready for it. Recognize something that you may wish and regret and seek to be forgiven for. But don't necessarily make it happen unless you can negotiate it in a way that can be received. But make amends in your heart. In the place of Caleb, you recognize, you don't kid yourself, so that you can love your neighbor and you can welcome the stranger. Groucho Marx is very famous for having said that any group that wants him in it is a group he wouldn't want to be part of. I love it. I'm just the opposite. Any synagogue that wants me to come and speak is a synagogue I like to be part of. And I can tell you, if you saw my little conversation with Rabbi Spitz on Friday, you know that this is where I would like to be. And I'd love to be with you as you go through this. I really would. But I leave you with this. and you don't need me. God, you're so rich. You know what I mean, what your richness is. You're rich. The amazing thing is, on this, with all of the things that are going on, here you are. You who are in this room, here you are. Maintaining this continuity of honoring Selichot, of honoring the holidays, of caring about them, carrying them into your families, maintaining these patterns which have meaning, which allow an evening like this, or a guest like this, or thoughts like this, or vulnerability like this, or intimacy like this. Without the container, there's no way to hold the holy water. So thank you. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Well, it's over. But Shavua Tov.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Peter, for bringing yourself across from the Hudson Valley of New York to Orange County. And despite time differences, it now being past midnight for you, being who you are, which is fully present wherever you are, your presence adds to our sense of being a community and being a holy community. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And as is the Jewish tradition, we now have food. To all who are viewing, thank you for joining. There are multiple access points. And so it will be for high holidays as well. will have different access points, but there is no substitute for being in person in terms of a quality of immediacy. And toward that goal as a community, for the first time, we are setting up chairs outside with a big screen for those who feel they need more space. There will be physical space here in the sanctuary with less than half the potential seats, but with masks required to protect ourselves. That's our priority. And so we will have High Holidays, unlike last year, where it was pre-recorded. You know, last year we thought, this will be just right now. We'll pre-record it, it'll be a one-off next year. I said to the leadership of the congregation, I was supposed to finish in July, but I said, we're pre-recording. I'd like to be with the community together for my 34th High Holidays. So it was made a little longer, so I'll stay until Simchat Torah. In sum, tonight is Selichot, which turns our attention to the unknown of a new year. We look back and we just nod our head from where we've come. We look forward with hope. Selichot and Caleb and Joshua, as those energies within us that Peter has evoked, are the energies of strength, of optimism, of acceptance that will give us the promise of a better year next year. So thank you all. Outside in the courtyard is some food, a chance to stretch. 10 o'clock sharply in 45 minutes. Our cantor, Amy Robinson-Katz, Carl Cedar, and Nasya. It's set up in ways in the back that will surprise you and evoke the memories and new emotions that lead us forward. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. Shimon.